The 7th Korea Experimental Arts Festival 2008 was held in Seoul. Steve Vanoni, performance artist, contributed to the festival with his art car idea. Through his unique artwork, take a look into the world of experimental art. Hello and welcome. I'm An Jung-hyun for Heart to Heart. Come Play With Me. That was the title of the show put on by performance artist Steve Vanoni during the Korea Experimental Arts Festival 2008. So why don't we find out what it means to go play with Steve Vanoni. Good to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you. It's nice to be here.
So you're here to take part in the Korea Experimental Arts Festival 2008. First time,
yes.
I believe.
Yes.
The area where the festival is taking place, the Hongik University area, or Hongdae area as we call it here, is a quite hip and artsy place even for Seoulites. Were you able to feel that while you were there?
Yes, it's a very lively and thriving place with a lot of activity, a lot of young people. It's a very beautiful and fun place to be.
So it sounds like you've enjoyed yourself.
Oh, it's great. It's great.
How did you come to participate in the Korea Experimental Arts Festival?
I was invited by the Kopus group, Mr. Kim Baeki, the great Korean artist, who I met while I was in Estonia at another performance art festival. And he really enjoyed my performance, and I really enjoyed his work. So as a result, he asked me to come and participate in this event.
Most of us are not quite familiar enough with what is labeled experimental art. Could you help us understand what that is?
Well, the experimental art is art where the artists normally take a chance and will then try to create something that is not as traditionally accepted to the normal art world as far as paintings and graphics. It's more of an experimental nature and combines a number of maybe dance, theater, performance art, and visual history that most people aren't that familiar with.
And I believe experimental art is more developed in Europe as opposed to any other parts of the world. Is there a reason for that?
I think it has to do with the economy, actually. There's more money. A lot of European artists receive grants from their governments, whereas the United States doesn't really give that much money towards the arts these days because they're too busy doing other things.
Do you often participate in this type of art festivals?
Whenever I can, whenever I'm invited, it's great to meet and work with other people from all over the world. And there's many talented artists from all over the world, and it's very fun to be with them and make something nice like this event was.
I wonder if you find different trends or even artist preferences or tendencies depending on where you are in the world.
Well, I did notice when I was in Estonia, there's a lot of the European artists use a lot of nudity in their work. I think I was the only person out of maybe the Korean artists didn't really use that much nudity either, but I was probably one of the only artists who didn't really get naked. But actually, I had an assistant.
The artists actually get naked themselves?
Oh, most of them. Most of the European artists, nudity is a big part of their art, which, you know, the naked human form has been one of the main symbols of beauty in art for probably 1,500 years. So,
did you find any characteristics in the Korean experimental art scene?
I love Kim Baeki's work. He's an amazing artist, very beautiful, and his stuff is almost very traditional in some way of aesthetic beauty, but then there's also more younger artists who do more experimental and wilder works.
When you go out and check out other artists' work, and in this case about 150 artists came for the Korea Experimental Arts Festival, what kind of stuff do you look for? I would imagine you look for things that you wouldn't normally think about.
I actually like to find or see art that takes you to another realm away from normal reality, takes you to this other kind of dream world, another dimension, and I enjoy that too. Maybe it's a form of escapism, but to take you to this other world that you are normally used to.
I wonder also if the barrier between experimental art and, I don't know, traditional or conventional art is also coming down as well. There's a lesser or a less clear distinction about what is experimental and what is not, because it seems artists these days are a lot more, I mean, even the public are a lot more tolerant about the kind of art they want to see. And artists are like that too, no?
Yes. I mean, the experimental work, you can almost think of it as being a scientific experiment where you add different chemicals together. We'll put a little of this and a little of that. And it doesn't always come, it might blow up on you and it might be a success, but then maybe you're not so happy at the end of the performance. So you never know, there's kind of a chance. And so it's fun to work with, play with.
Well, you were initially invited to this art festival for your art car parade.
Yes.
In the end, it wasn't quite your art car parade, but it was your idea, and that gave the organizers a chance to actually show this art car parade. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Well, yes. When I was performing in Estonia, I created a art car for that country, and it's the only art car in Estonia. And as a result of that, the Kopis people here really enjoyed and loved the art car, so they invited me to come here to make an art car for their country. Where I live, I have a few art cars, and there's a whole network of art car artists all over the country. And we often get together, and we'll parade around different cities and have big events in different museums. And so it's a great thing to bring freedom and color to the roadways, you know. But our art cars are street legal. They're legal to drive on the freeways and stuff, so I think it would be it's a good idea to also maybe someday do that in Korea as well.
We just saw some photos from the art car parade here. So an art car is what, a car that is just
embellished with paint, with colors. You can glue objects to it, and there's so many things that you can do, so many ways that people have made their art cars, many beautiful art cars. Yes, very personal to the artist.
It seems you're quite passionate about art cars.
It's a great way to do artwork, because when you're driving down the street, normal people on the streets, kids and stuff, always love art cars. So they'll tell you how they feel about your art car right away. It's like, they scream and yell. It's very direct kind of art.
Actually, here we're going to be seeing the art car that was shown during this festival. So are you happy with the way that
they did
turned out?
I think they did a great job, and I think it's great actually that the Korean artists created their own art car for the first art car in Korea, and hopefully they'll continue to make it, you know, better and change it up on occasion, keep adding to it.
What are you doing there?
Actually, I was getting ready for a performance, and I needed that table, so I had to grab it and run. That was right before my show.
I see.
Yeah.
So with art cars, you could actually modify things or add things once.
Oh yes, you could. I think it's better to keep adding to it and keep decorating it, and as long as you can. Everybody always finds things, and well, let's put this on the dashboard. You can do the dashboard. You can paint the interior, have lights on it, and all kinds of things. It's never end. It's always an ongoing process of working it.
How long does it take for one to create an art car?
You could work on it the rest of your life. Just keep changing
if you wanted
it.
To.
Yeah.
How many art cars have you made then?
You see, I have 2 art cars in the States, and then the one in Estonia, and then I will be returning to Seoul for the Seoul International Performance Art Festival in October to make two more here.
You're going to make 2 art cars here?
Yes. This time I will actually be here to make them instead of yeah, miss it.
Well, when you made the art car for Estonia, do you think about your audience, the local audience, when you make it? In other words, I mean, do you try to include your own impressions about the country?
Actually, when before I arrived in Estonia, as well as Seoul, my contacts here, the Copas artists, I requested that I work with a couple of the local artists. That way we can work together and collaborate and make something beautiful and very unique just to this region and the country.
How long have you been making art cars?
I think my first art car we made in about 2005 or so. But I have a bunch of friends of mine who've been making them probably for the last 20 years or so in America.
Right, right. Okay. And also during this festival, you had your own show titled Come Play With Me. And we have video highlights from that show, so why don't we check those out and then we'll continue our conversation.
Right on. Yes, here we have Homer. Homer is my assistant.
Oh, your assistant, I see.
Yes. Homer is a great performance artist from Estonia who I collaborated with several times. This is the beginning of the performance here.
So you picked him up in Estonia along the way.
Yes, he helps a lot. And this is where we interact with the audience and try to engage them to collaborate, to work with the audience, to be participants in the work. I like to bring people into the work and we create together.
What are they doing there?
This is a game that I invented where they can win prizes, but most of the people tend to lose, and then at the very end of it, I give everybody a nice dessert on this.
By pouring chocolate on
a woman.
A woman.
And then
having them taste the chocolate.
Then they have a little taste. And then most of the people playing the game lose, but I give them prizes.
던져서 성공을 하고 싶었어요. 가운데 목표물이 있었으니까 실패해서 좀 아쉬웠고 한 번 더 던지고 싶었어요.
네, 아기를 오브제로 썼잖아요. 그래서 저는 약간 낙태 그런 거 상징하는 줄 알았는데 딱히 상징하는 건 없는 것 같더라고요. 되게 신선했던 것 같아요. 아기를 그걸 던진다는 것 자체가.
되게 재밌었던 것 같아요. 다른 작품들에 비해서 확실히 퍼포먼스가 그분은 좀 참여하는 게 많아서 확실히 소통해야 되나? 그러니까 즐거웠어요. 그게 할 수 있어서. Thank you. 지금 thank you.
So you like to involve your audience in your show?
It's a great process where we can create together something, make something wonderful. Instead of them being separate and just watching, you can actually work with them. And that way you don't really know what's going to happen. And it's great for bringing them into the art-making process.
Is that what you normally try to do with most of your shows then?
Yes. Yeah, that's the fun of it for me, because you never know how they're going to react.
Well, to me, it looked like, obviously I only saw the highlights, but it seemed to me that they were at a little carnival where they were just playing instead of being in a theater watching a show.
Yes, that's the fun of it for me, is to go in and to get them and to pull them into the... I love to do that. And that way we make something fun, everyone has a good time, and yeah, it's great. You bring them into the art-making process.
What was your idea when you created the show Come Play With Me? What did you want to say to the audience?
I like to show them that art is not always so serious. Just like life, every aspect of life can be brought into the art world, and fun and every emotion, human emotion. So a lot of times people think art is always so serious. That's maybe a part of art, and it can be that, but also there's the fun stuff, and also that we can work together to create something fun and beautiful.
Well, the people who we interviewed after your show seem to have enjoyed the experience very much.
Right on.
So you've been a performance artist and an installation artist for 25 years, is that correct?
Yes, I do a lot of paintings and played a lot of music also for years.
And before that, you were a high school teacher.
Well, I've taught
Art
in
teacher.
colleges and worked with a lot of kids in a little high school, as well as I worked in a prison teaching drawing for a few years.
Oh, and when you drew, what you drew experimental in nature as well, would you say? Or did you make a switch to experimental art at one stage in your life?
I've always just kind of worked on developing my own style throughout my career, and it's always kind of experimental because when you experiment, it kind of opens it up and you try to learn new tricks, you know, and something new and fresh, and keeps it more exciting that way.
So how do you go from teaching drawing to doing your own drawings and then becoming a performance artist / installation artist?
Well, I've been performing. I did a lot of music. I played in a number of bands for about 15 to 20 years, as well as I used to do a lot of spoken word performances. And I've been doing performance art for on and off for 20-something years. So it's all kind of related somehow. And plus, if you incorporate the visual art history into it, you can come up with something unique, maybe.
We also have photos of your early paintings, so perhaps we'll look at those and figure out what kind of a painter Steve Vanoni is as well.
Sweet. Oh, yes.
Do you remember how long ago those paintings were from?
This painting, I believe, is from around 2001. This one also, this painting's about 12 feet tall by 10 feet. My paintings are kind of cartoony, and I do a lot of portraits, big lips. You can kind of see it. This one is a train painting here. I lived on the train tracks for a number of years in big warehouses, as well as this. They're kind of anthropomorphic paintings, human heads that are large trains and kind of cartoony style.
Very colorful.
Oh, thank you.
Your art cars tend to be that colorful as well, then?
Oh, yes.
Do you tend to, I don't know, draw similar things on the cars?
Exactly. Yes, because I've been doing it. That's kind of what I know, so I try to incorporate it into whatever I do somehow, you know?
Well, the titles of your paintings are quite interesting. Big Head, I Love Paint, Train Head, etc., etc.
Exactly.
What is it that you try to show in your paintings?
Well, I try to make very fun, kind of cartoony, colorful paintings that are about where I live, what I see, incorporate my everyday life into my work, as well as, yes, everything that I, you know, in some sort of humor. I like doing humorous type of work, incorporating that into my work, you know, color, yeah.
Well, you are a very colorful person even today.
Oh, thank you.
And I could see paint all over your shoes.
Right.
So you're constantly at work.
That's right. It's an ongoing process.
Right. Now, tell us about a team called Horse Cow that you often perform with.
The Horse Cow is a group of artists. There's about 10 or 15 artists, and we do performances in the States primarily. I like to utilize an invention called a pulse jet that I have used for blasting paint onto naked people, and also I blast stuffed animals out of the cannon and then play with the audience. We play a game of baseball and blast those stuffed animals, and it makes a very loud sound. And I hope to bring the Pulse Jet to Seoul next month, actually, and do some performances with it.
Where did you find the Horse Cow, the members of the Horse Cow?
Well, the Horse Cow emerged from, there used to be a bar named the Horse Cow and in the San Francisco area, And I always, when I drive by it, I would always think, what is that? What does it mean? And then I opened up a folk art gallery in Sacramento, and a number of my artists do very simple paintings of cows and horses. So the bar closed around the same time I opened up my gallery. So I thought, oh, I'll take the horse cow and use that as the name.
So you never got to figure out for yourself what the bar meant by calling itself the Horse Cow, but when you decided to call the group Horse Cow, what did you mean by it?
Well, I used it as because to relate to my folk artist's work. But actually, the original Horse Cow, I did a little research on that, and it has to do with the men who were in the submarines, which my father was actually in submarines for 25 years in the Navy. So it kind of went back home for me, because then my father's history with it. He told me he had went to a submarine, the Horse Cow, in San Francisco in the 40s, the 1940s. So kind of, the more I looked, the more I found about the history of it.
I see. And how long have you been with the Horse Cow?
I opened the Horse Cow in 2001.
2001, so you guys have been together for some time.
It's a great team of people. It kind of changes the players, but some of them still stay and, have stayed and work with them.
And most of the shows that you put on with them involve the audience in pretty much the same way that you did with Come Play With Me.
Yes, yes. I also do big events with the Horse Cow where we have fashion shows, DJs, live music, art shows. We'll have costume parties, a big event, big cultural events where we create culture where otherwise there's nothing. By bringing everyone together, you can make something bigger than any one person, and it's a great experience and always magical.
You plan to bring the Horse Cow to Seoul next month for the Performance Arts Festival?
That's right. I'm going to bring actually my main collaborator and co-founder of Horse Cow with me, and we will do some pulse jet performances here and create a pulse jet car also, which will be a lot of fun.
You're going to be quite busy making 2 art cars and then having the show with the Horse Cow.
Yes, it'll be great.
Well,
Yes.
I wish you the best of luck with all of your work, and I'll look forward to, I guess, to seeing you back here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So there you go. Those of you who might have missed your chance to go see the Korea Experimental Arts Festival, there is one called the Seoul International Performance Art Festival coming up next month, where you will be able to see more of Steve Vanoni's works. That's it for today's Heart to Heart. I'll be back with more next time.